Oh, Clone High, you beautiful hidden gem of the early 2000s. I absolutely adored the original version of Clone High, but the revival series from 2023 is a completely different story. Now, I want to be perfectly clear, I was one of the people asking for a continuation of Clone High. I made a video back in 2020, literally just asking for a continuation. The video was called Clone High Needs a Continuation, and just a few months after this video came out, it was announced that Clone High was going to be making a comeback with the original creators returning, people that had gone on to do incredible things. And as a massive fan of early 2000s animated shows that didn't get a fair chance like The Critic or Mission Hail and Undergrads, I was really excited and optimistic about this revival, and I saw it as the first stepping stone to getting more continuations of these shows that I loved so much in high school. But then I watched the revival, and after initially being positive on the first few episodes, I and many others realized that the revival was missing the secret sauce that made the original so good, especially in the revival's first season, which I wound up giving a 4 out of 10, something that was unimaginable when this show was being developed. I really thought it was going to be good with the original creators returning. But that begs the question, what is the secret sauce that made the original Clone High so good? Well, the sauce had 3 ingredients: parody, satire, and stupidity. Clone High was originally a show making fun of teen dramas and all the tropes and cliches that come with that territory, while using cloned historical figures as both an interesting draw for audiences and a source for all sorts of historical jokes. The show also had a fairly dry, silly, and I'd go so far as to say downright stupid sense of humor at times.
A girl is interested in me, and I'm not going to ignore it.
If I want you,
You want me to what?
um,
Forgot what you're gonna say. Happens to me all the time.
It worked really well, and despite the original Clone High still having an episode or two that weren't great, I'd say the show as a whole accomplished what it set out to do. It was a funny, goofy portrayal of high school drama using cloned historical figures as its hook that made sure its characters took everything seriously, no matter how outlandish and silly it got. But as we all know, the original version of Clone High got canceled because of a controversy surrounding the character of Gandhi. And that's all in the past now. We're into the future, and we have to ask the question, how did the revival fuck this up so bad that it got canceled after 2 seasons? Was it just because Gandhi wasn't there? Well, no, even though some people have made that argument, and it's kind of fair because it's a balancing dynamic of the original first season of Clone High. You have this comic relief character, then he's pulled out, and you're introducing all these new characters. What if he was there? Is he able to take some of the stress off these other characters? Who knows? It's not the show we got. They had their reasons for not including him. It's the reason they got canceled in the first place, so it kind of makes sense. The actual answer as to why the revival of Clone High didn't work is actually pretty straightforward in my mind. Instead of making a parody of teen dramas that satirize the many tropes and cliches of the genre in an outlandish and silly way with a weird, fun cast of cloned historical figures, the revival of Clone High made a teen drama that happened to have cloned historical figures in it and goofy jokes. The difference may sound minor, but this is really what doomed the revival in my eyes. The writers cared too much about giving the characters in the Clone High revival actual relationship drama to the point where they forgot they were supposed to be making fun of shows that did that sort of thing. Shows that are built entirely on relationship drama and the shallow problems of high school is what the original Clone High was making fun of. It wasn't trying to emulate the feeling of a teen drama, it was trying to poke fun at it. The Clone High revival became what it was parodying, and despite the second season of the revival making some major improvements with both overall writing and character motivations, it just couldn't escape the fact that it became the butt of the joke it was telling. Forget about the cloned historical figures, forget about the characters that we had set up many years ago that fans fell in love with and is the reason why this show is being revived at all. Forget about all of them, we have relationship drama to set up that no one that originally loved the show actually cares about. They cared about the jokes, they cared about about the historical figures interacting with one another. They cared about the satire and the parody of teen dramas. All of that was put on the back burner while relationship drama was put at the forefront. It's just baffling. But my thoughts on the Clone High revival are cataloged in my reviews of both of the 2 new seasons. And I'm not going to retread everything I said in those videos here because it would take way too long and I don't want to be overly redundant, even though at this point I've kind of tried to hammer home my point a few too many times. The fact is now, it doesn't matter how any of us feel about the Clone High revival, because it's officially dead. I see no situation where this show comes back in any form at this point, and it's honestly kind of heartbreaking. I've been rooting for shows like Clone High and The Critic and Mission Hill for years at this point. You can go back on my channel and look at the early videos I did on these topics. And to see the Clone High revival turn out so lackluster is just incredibly disappointing to me. I worked incredibly hard on my initial review for the first season because I wanted to do my best to give actual constructive criticism in hopes that someone on the writing staff would see it and take it to heart. But even though I felt the second season made improvements, I think it was clear to everyone that this show was not clicking with audiences the way the original did. It just wasn't the same show. And not because it was coming out 20 years later, but because in that 20 years, the team behind Clone High lost the recipe for the secret sauce. And instead, they decided just to settle for the generic store brand knockoff sauce that's used on the most basic corporate slop available to the masses. It might sound harsh, but the formula was right there in front of them the entire time. The first season pretty much ignored the fact that these were cloned historical figures, which again, I'll remind you, is one of the main hooks of this show. It just goes to show you that the team behind the Clone High revival really wasn't all that interested in making a faithful continuation. They just wanted to use the property to make what Disney would call a modern take on a classic, which is almost always code for a dumbed down, simpler, and less satisfying version of a thing people liked. But you know what? I'm not even all that mad about the decision to cancel the Clone High revival. I'm sad and disappointed it wound up so mediocre and forgettable, but I can't be mad because they got a second season. They had a chance to right the ship, and in my eyes, they came pretty damn close. I gave season 2 a 6.5 out of 10, being closer to a 7 than a 6. I enjoyed a lot of the second season. It had a lot of flaws, but it was clear to me that the writing staff was making an actual effort to recapture the magic of the original show, something I don't think they even tried to do in the first season. The only problem was they couldn't quite pull it off. They were built on a shaky foundation to begin with because that first season was so laughably bad. There just wasn't enough to build off of, and they kind of dug themselves into a hole, and now here we are. I'm sad Clone High is done for good. I'm sad the revival didn't work out. I'm sad we're ending on another cliffhanger. I'm just broadly disappointed in this whole situation. Once again, the words of political icon Harvey Dent ring true. You either die a hero or you live long enough to become a forgettable and disappointing animated revival. Rest in peace, Clone High. And if you see the critic up there in heaven, please tell him to hurry up and come back, because I'm not sure how much longer Jon Lovitz is going to be with us, and I am dying for another season of that show. Unless, of course, it's anything like the first season of the Clone High revival, in which case, just tell the critic to stay dead.
Sometimes dead is better.